Australia. And the third test, of course, coming up is the one that Australia certainly is waiting for to try and create rugby league history. But so to today, and New South Wales have got a very impressive record against the visiting Great Britain sides down through the years. In fact, they haven't been beaten by a visiting side since the early 60s. At the cricket ground today, a much smaller crowd, of course, in attendance to see this match. But up in the New South Wales dressing room, a young man on a very important mission, back to representative honours and captaining the New South Wales side today. And Bill Mordy is in there from the Daily Mirror talking with Greg Pearce.
Greg, are there any nerves on this start of a representative comeback?
Oh, certainly, Billy. I'm anxious about today. I'm looking forward to it, but naturally it's a big occasion again and everyone gets a few butterflies.
And to come back as captain, has there been any psychological letdown as being dubbed the second New South Wales team?
Not at all. These guys appreciate their chance, you know. There's some excellent players here. They'll certainly be keen to win. They all have great ability. And there's no disadvantage being the second team. It's probably an advantage, if anything, because they can take full advantage of it. They'll be underdogs and nobody expect too much from them. They'll be looking to do well within themselves.
Do you think some of the players from this side can force their way into Australia's third test team next week?
Well, the established test side is a very good side and they combine very well together. But, if the guys play well enough today, I think in Sydney we're lucky enough, or in New South Wales or Queensland as well, we're lucky enough to have probably 30 fringe test players. And if these guys put up a great performance today, there's no reason why they can't have a game next week.
Greg Pearce, thanks very much.
Okay, Don.
And from the New South Wales dressing rooms, we take you across now to the Great Britain dressing rooms. They certainly haven't had very much to smile about on their trip so far. Let's see if the atmosphere over there is any different today as we take you to Peter Peters.
Thanks, Ray. A very special welcome back to Australia to David Topless.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
Dave, you only arrived on Sunday night and you played one game during the week. How's your condition?
Not as good as it could be, but I've been keeping myself reasonably fit without really pushing training at home, and I was glad for the run out on Wednesday.
The Australian critics were very surprised when you didn't make the original side. Were you surprised when you got a call in England to come to Australia and as a replacement?
Yes, I was quite surprised. I thought they'd overlooked me for good, really, but in all fairness, I shouldn't have come when the original team was picked. I wasn't playing well enough, but I had a good run into the season, and that's what's probably brought me here.
The City Cricket Ground's been one of your favourite grounds. I remember 2 years ago in the semi-finals with Balmain, you gave a brilliant exhibition and almost single-handed won a game. Has your form since then been the same with Wakefield Trinity?
No, not really. I've had a lot of bad luck for the 18 months. I left Australia with a groin injury, and that took a long time to clear up. And it's only the last 3 or 4 months that it did of the season.
The dry grounds here suit your style of play. Can we expect to see the jazzing David Topless, the fast running and the sidestepping runs that became famous in Australia?
I hope so, but there's opposition to stop you, and same as I say, I'm not as fit as I could be, but I'm hoping for a good game, yeah.
It's a very young New South Wales side today. What's the feeling in the Great Britain camp? Down 2-0, you don't want to be the first side to be beaten 3-0 in Australia or in the series between the two countries. What's the feeling?
Well, this is where we start today. I think it's the best team apart from the 2 tests that we play, and we're hoping for a good win today. We're on a loser today. If we win, it's the second string. If we lose,
right.
They'll give us a bit more slagging, so we can't win anyway.
Thank you to Peter Peters there, talking from the Great Britain dressing room. Great Britain, of course, in the second half of the second test, showed that they certainly have the talents there to create problems for Australia in the third test, and of course for New South Wales today. One of the bright parts of last Saturday's encounter came with the try scored by centre three-quarter John Joyner, and it went like this. Pulled in nicely by George Nichols, given to Joyner. Here's a try coming up for Great Britain. Yes, Joyner scores. And so I wonder, are we going to see anything like that from Great Britain today? I certainly hope so. It took them quite a long time, as far as their encounters with the Australians have been concerned, to cross that line. But Joyner did it in the second half very early on. I wonder, can they do it against New South Wales? We'll see in just a moment.
You know I love my pussies, and they certainly love my waterbed. And after a hard day at the store, I just love to lie down with my friends and have a little play with my Rank-A-Reader remote control colour television and video.
Nothing like the crowds back in 1962 when last Great Britain defeated New South Wales under the captaincy of Eric Ashton. The crowds for the 2 matches they played that year were up around the 80,000 mark. And of course the New South Wales side, McMahon, Glover, Dorahy, Peter Mortimer, Fay, Trudgett, Steve Mortimer, Greg Pearce captain, Gerard, Mean, Hilditch, Brown and Starkey, coached of course by the Australian coach Frank Stanton. Reserves for the New South Wales side, of course, are Steve Morris and Greg Cook, who's had a meteoric rise to the arenas of representation. And so it'll only be a matter of seconds now before the Great Britain team comes down the chute onto the Sydney Cricket Ground as we welcome in co-commentator Keith Barnes. Nice to have you back this afternoon and looking forward to a good one, I hope.
Yes, I think it will be an interesting game too, because Great Britain will be looking to get back some of their lost prestige, and as far as New South Wales are concerned, of course, there's a lot of players there that will be striving for test jumpers, so there's a lot of pressure on both teams. And
there's the Great Britain side on screen with, of course, the really notable addition to the side being number 6 David Topless, who played, of course, with the Balmain club in Sydney and arrived last Sunday night. So referee Roberts calls time on, and the kick-off is taken by John Dorahy, the man regarded as being very unlucky not to be at least reserved for the Australian test sides. Playing the ball is Fairburn for Great Britain, but a penalty immediately has been given to the visiting side against Ray Brown. In the tackle, knees indicated by referee Roberts. And this man, John Woods, is going to take the kick for touch, kicking towards the showground side. Not a good kick. In fact, he may have only gained about 7 metres. And the tap is taken, and it's gone from Nichols into the waiting arms of Trevor Skerritt, who's put to ground by Gerard and Neen. Kangaroo second row combination. Nichols working the blind side back to Mick Adams. You're watching the international on the O10 network between Great Britain and New South Wales. Brought to you by Rank Arena and Joyce Main Discounts. Our man of the match award in this one today is again a microwave oven, this time from the Rank Arena people, and a good kick in general play. Finding touch. About 7 metres inside the 22.
A lot of pressure on several key New South Wales players out there this afternoon. It's good to see Greg Pearce back in action after that crippling knee injury that he suffered on the Kangaroo Tour. But a lot of pressure on the players that you already mentioned, Ray. John Dorahy in particular, he's had a wonderful season, and also the halfback Steve Mortimer. I'd like to see Mortimer's fire out there this afternoon, because his type of brilliance is the type of brilliance that brings crowds to their feet. He's a very colourful, entertaining player.
This is Starkey tackle just outside the 22. The tackler was Gratian, and they worked blindside, the New South Wales side. Dropped by Gerard, picked up by the prop forward following him through. But he's knocked it on Ron Hilditch, and so the scrum is to go down on the New South Wales 22. Fed by Mortimer, and the second scrum of the match has also been won by Ray Brown. It's to Neville Glover now, and Glover is through the tackle of Redfern, but is held over there by Mick Adams, and around the legs by Jeff Gratian. On the halfway now, from Steve Mortimer to Steve Neen, and Neen it is that takes it to the halfway mark. Tackled again by Gratian. Out from Brown to Mortimer, now to Starkey, and Starkey is held again on the halfway mark. Now Mortimer, Trudgett, Dorahy coming up McMahon, he's dropped it. Referee allowing the advantage to apply, but it's gone back to the New South Wales possession, and so the scrum will go down. A few metres on the Randwick end of the halfway. My personal thanks to members of the ATEA for their cooperation in linking this telecast through today to country centres in New South Wales and, of course, through Queensland. This is Greg Pearce unloading to John Dorahy, a player that I know a lot of Western Suburbs supporters are very anxious to see do well. And I suppose rugby league lovers in general would like to see Dorahy have a big game today, because his being left out of the reserves for those 2 tests was, I feel, quite hard to fathom, on the form displayed so far in 1979 anyway. So a bit of organising around the scrum area by referee Roberts, and it's in, and they've won a scrum now, the red, white and blues, and it's Adams Taken the ground by Greg Pearce low, and Jeff Gerard over the top. 10 metres out from the 22 line, being played back to Redfern, the halfback. You'll see him at dummy half quite a bit in the match. This man with the headband is Phil Hogan. He's been dubbed or tagged as the $54,000 man. Very expensive purchase was Hogan to his club side in England. Gratian did well to get that ball through Redfern. This is David Topless unloading out to Roy Mathias, and Mathias is tackled almost on the halfway mark. Played back to Topless, given through Adams, out to Nichols, a short ball to Hogan, and he's taken around the legs by Gerard. Again to Redfern, now to Adams, cuts out Woods, gives it to Joyner, Joyner gets it onto the flanker, and it's Hughes that's tackled and taken into touch.
Good covering tackle there by Mortimer, but Great Britain look as if they're intent on throwing the ball around, and obviously one of their key players is going to be Hogan, looking to run off Nichols at every opportunity. But Joyner is a player that impressed me in the Test match, and when he's cleared away to score that runaway
of footballer that the Englishmen generally appreciate. The number 7 of the Great Britain half, Alan Redfern, feeding the scrum. Won by Great Britain through Adams. It's gone to Topless, and Topless is well taken out there by his opposite number, the St George 5'8", Tony Trudgett. Inside his own quarter line. We've had 8 minutes of time gone, no score on the board, and McMahon is taken 15 metres on his side of the halfway. The tackler being the hooker, Dave Watkinson, knocked on at the dummy half by Terry Fay. And another scrum to go down midway between the New South Wales quarter line and the halfway. No score on the board. And the international from the cricket ground today between Great Britain and New South Wales. Coming to you on the O10 network.
I love my pussies.
The third test coverage next Saturday. A little bit of fire in that scrum. Roberts has given the penalty, though, to Great Britain. And this very fine kicker of the ball, John Woods, will come up and try to put first points on the board.
On top of his fine test performance last Saturday, I believe Woods handed in another impressive effort up at Wagga during the week. Kicked exceptionally well.
Orange, I think.
Orange, was it? Yeah, yes, up in the country against Riverina, wasn't it? Western Districts.
So Woods now from almost in centre field, about 33 metres out, and he's missed it. And so it'll come back out to the quarter line for the restart. The scrums at the moment favour New South Wales 3-2. The penalties to Great Britain 2-1. One scrum penalty to New South Wales, one to Great Britain. And New South Wales has dropped the ball on 3 occasions in the error round, the error count, as against the Great Britain side, not having done that at all yet. Here's Nichols now, taking it up. And Nichols stepping his way through very, very cleverly up to the New South Wales 22 before being tackled by Trudgett. That's Topless giving it to Watkinson. Watkinson away from one. And he's eventually pulled down by Ray Brown. Over the top is Bruce Starkey. Played back to Redfern, and Redfern goes from dummy half. Gains about 5 metres, in fact, before the defence made any endeavour to put him to ground. Out to Nichols on the blind side. He gives the ball to Topless. He tries to get a kick in, and it appeared as though he may have even kicked Greg Pearce under the chin as Pearce went in to try and block that ball down. But it's Great Britain back in possession. Still inside the 22. And Nichols it is again, turning it on the inside to Trevor Skerritt. And Skerritt is about 15 metres out from the line. Playing the ball back to Woods, who gives it to Adams. Adams running to the defence. The New South Wales defence not really coming up to the attacker. They're more inclined to hang back and let the attack run to them. This is Nichols offloading again nicely to Hogan. Hogan is 10 metres out. He's right in front of the uprights. And playing it back to David Topless. This is Nichols. And a little kick over the top by Nichols, and a race for the ball. Glover gets a hand to it and over the dead ball line, but How close it was.
Yes,
Glover, in fact, lost his footing.
Yes, he did. It was certainly a lucky escape for New South Wales, but I agree with you, Ray, with what you say about the New South Wales defence at the moment. They're very lacklustre. They're not putting any effort and no fire and no determination into their play. They're not moving up and putting any pressure on Great Britain. And, of course, this is playing into their tactics, into their hands. Nicholl dictating the trend of the game and playing very well at the moment. A clever little kick over the top.
They're 2 metres outside the 22 at the moment as it goes to Nichols, and he turns the ball into Redfern, who gives the ball to nobody, really. It was a badly directed pass. And Watkinson is who is going to play the ball. He's about 30 metres out from the New South Wales line. Here's Redfern trying to make the break. He turns it back on the inside to Skerritt, and he's nicely tackled there by Ron Hilditch. Up the top was Steve Neen, and Skerritt it is who plays it back to Adams and then to Nichols. Inside the 22, turning it back to Redfern, then back to Gratian. Gratian looks for support in vain at the moment, but he does very well. Gets his pass back to Watkinson, and Watkinson is tackled about 9 metres outside the New South Wales line. They're right in front of the uprights as it goes to Nichols, and he floats the ball out to John Joyner, who drops it, but it was picked up by a teammate and given away to Hogan. Hogan is tackled 11 metres out from the line. Played back to Redfern. Now to Fairburn, and Fairburn drops for goal, and there it is, the first point on the board. Great Britain 1, leading New South Wales 0 after 12 minutes of the international from the Sydney Cricket Ground. So, George Fairburn putting the first points on the board, a scoreline that you don't see very often. Keith Barnes, but no, 1-0 is the score.
Yes, but Great Britain looking impressive in these opening minutes, aren't they? With Nichols hitting the edge of the ruck on the outside and turning the ball back infield. New South Wales defence not moving up, certainly not moving up on the inside or the outside, and this is allowing Nichols, of course, to probe a couple of gaps, and it's an area that Greg Pearce will have to be aware of, otherwise Great Britain are going to run riot down the middle of the rucks.
So the drop goal was kicked by this man Fairburn, and he's going to play it about 12 metres out from his own quarter, and Trevor Skerritt it is who goes to ground. Tacklers were Dorahy and Brown, two Western Suburbs players kicking in general play again. Great Britain looking for the touchline, not finding it. Alan McMahon coming up with it around Hogan, around Woods. A very feeble attempt by Woods really to try and bring McMahon down. He didn't seem to make a very wholehearted effort from Steve Mortimer to trudge it. And this young man has been playing very well for St George this year. Gerard, they didn't like him on the Kangaroo Tour, and there's probably, pardon me, no reason to think that they're going to enjoy having to tackle Gerard today. But at the moment it's 1-0 in favour of Great Britain, and they certainly looking the better side. Let's see what New South Wales can do now, though, as Trudgett gives a good ball to Peter Mortimer. He's tackled on the 22 on the last tackle, on the second last tackle, I should say. This is the last. It's Steve Mortimer turning it to Jeff Gerard, who floats the ball on the inside, which has been picked up by Woods, the centre, and he turns defence into attack for Great Britain.
See, that was a terrible pass by Gerard then. He just threw it anywhere, didn't he?
And so the penalty goes to the Englishman. New South Wales inside the 5.
Of course, it's easy to be critical, because if the pass had gone to hand, you'd have said what a great pass it was.
Well, that's right. That's right. So Woods it is who finds touch on the halfway mark. And this tap is to be taken by Watkinson, the hooker. Adams going into dummy half. Out to Nichols. Nichols unloading, and Redfern picks it up, but the referee Roberts is going to put a scrum down. With the scoreline 1-0 in favour of Great Britain, a drop goal being kicked by George Fairburn. Fed by Steve Mortimer, won by New South Wales. This is Tony Trudgett around his opposite number, David Topless. And a good run by Trudgett, ending midway between the 22 and the halfway on the Great Britain end of the field. This is Steve Mortimer. Steve Mortimer put the ground by Topless in combination with Adams. Played back to Pearce, Dorahy, Neen, Brown, McMahon. Getting the pass to Terry Fay. The big man, they won't stop him. And Fay scores for New South Wales. 3-1 is the score in favour of New South Wales. I know it sounds strange, but here it is on the replay as it came away to Alan McMahon, who swung away from a high tackle before giving it to Terry Fay, and then he skirts down the touchline towards the M.A. Noble corner before beating Fairburn, and it's 3-1 in favour of New South Wales with the kick to come.
And a good try here for New South Wales. The way McMahon injected himself into the line, he was able to get through that head-high tackle there by Nichols. Positioned Fay very well, gave him a perfect pass, and that is the way that Fay came into Fairburn after he mounted his man, stood him up and then got away from him very, very easily and went over in the corner with a very, a good winger's try and good backline play by the New South Wales players.
The attempted conversion being taken by the Western Suburbs centre John Dorahy, and why not? Dorahy is a prolific
to lie down with my friends and have a little play with my rankery.
So Woods restarting for Great Britain. This ball going down to Neville Glover, who was concussed in last Sunday's club game against St George. So much so that you can take it for granted he was virtually given up by the club doctor and the club coach that he wouldn't play tomorrow in the match against Newtown. So he made a remarkable recovery, Neville Glover. It's Great Britain, though, on the attack now. 22 metres out from the New South Wales line as Hogan gives the ball nicely to Woods, and Woods has carved them up and scores in the scoreboard corner, but the referee says no try on a touch judge report. You'll find as Woods splits the defence, watch the corner marker. It appears that has gone before he got the ball down. Yes, most definitely. You saw it actually splitting outside the top left-hand corner of your screen. I certainly didn't see it as it happened live, but the replay proved conclusively the touch judge was right. And referee Roberts has put play back to this point on the field with Gerard playing it. But it was a good pass.
Let's give Woods some credit too, because he really burst onto that ball, showed good acceleration, didn't he, to get away from the New South Wales defence, and then he was covered by McMahon, who did particularly well to get him into that corner flag. But a great pass from Nichols to Hogan in the first instance, and then from Hogan to Woods.
So it's New South Wales leading by 3-1 after 19 minutes of the first half, and this is Ray Brown turning the pass away to Steve Mortimer, and he runs into Watkinson and also into Trevor Skerritt, so he's taken a couple of the bigger men on. And it's out to Trudgett, and he tries to make the break himself, Trudgett, as the centres for Great Britain actually got between Trudgett and the New South Wales inside centre, and Trudgett had no alternative but to go himself. This scrum is going down just on the Great Britain side of the halfway. Redfern servicing the scrum, and won by New South Wales out to Trudgett. A quick ball from Mortimer that was. Trudgett taken though by David Topless. He's lost the ball, and so another scrum has to go down. About 9 metres on the Great Britain side of halfway.
A little bit of scrappy play, isn't there, interspersed with some particularly good football. Steve Mortimer's an interesting player out there this afternoon. A couple of times now that Mortimer's had his chance in representative football, he hasn't lived up to the hopes of his supporters and his army of fans. I get the impression that when he comes onto the representative arena, he changes his natural style of play and he goes into a bit of a shell. Mortimer's an enterprising player, and he has to turn and play his natural game.
Intercept by Dorahy, or should I say picking up a drop ball was Dorahy, and then a floating pass out from the centre, Peter Mortimer, into touch on the wing occupied by Glover.
Glover should have a look at those studs of his, because that's the second occasion now he's lost his balance and slipped.
Yes, the pass really had nothing to do with it. Glover just slipped away from his footing, and the centre, Mortimer, was made to look very bad by Glover not actually being there. So this penalty to New South Wales gives John Dorahy another chance to kick for goal. He's going to do that. And as you can see, he's 10 metres in from the showground side and about 32 metres out. The New South Wales, Great Britain International coming to you on the O10 network and brought to you in Sydney by Joyce Main Discounts and Rank Arena, who provide the man of the match award today in the shape of a microwave oven. This kick by Dorahy is a good one. That's a good kick by Dorahy. And it takes the scoreline to New South Wales 5, Great Britain 1.
That was a good goal because he was kicking into a fairly stiff breeze and one that is very tricky, kicking from that angle.
So 22 minutes coming up now in the first half as Woods restarts. And it's going down there to Steve Neen, who could possibly have let it go, but by the look of Neen, as he indicates to the touch judge what he believes to be...
Well, I suppose he's advising the touch judge that he felt he was in the air when he took the ball and landed out of the field of play. And, of course, that would necessitate a free kick back in the centre of the field, as much as to say that the ball went out on the full.
Yes, Neen was sort of saying to the touch judge, that is what a touch judge, that is what a touch line looks like, sir. But it's no use Steve Neen carrying on the conversation any further because it's long gone. And this penalty to Great Britain being taken by John Woods. He stands the ball in the upright position and is around the corner style of kicker.
Doesn't waste any time, does he?
Beg your pardon?
He doesn't waste any time.
No, he doesn't. But he's a very good kicker. Down 5-1 at the moment. It's low, but offline. So out to the quarter line for the restart. So the scoreline still remains 5-1 in favour of New South Wales. Their try was scored by Terry Fay. And that try by Fay came up at the 15th minute. Scoring opened after 12 minutes with George Fairbairn's drop goal. And the penalty by Dorahy came at the 21st minute. So we find now a scrum to form midway between the 22 and the halfway on the Lions end of the field.
And the scrum's favouring New South Wales 5-3 at this stage, with penalties going to Great Britain 4-2.
So here's Redfern coming away from the scrum. Tackled right in centre field. Tackled by New South Wales skipper Greg Pearce. And running with the ball Hogan, but again Pearce was the tackler. So this is Nichols. A lot of weight has fallen on Nichols' shoulders. He's probably one of the very few ball men that the Englishmen have got left in the ranks. Not injured. Matthias now. Right on the halfway mark. Held up by Brown and Steve Mortimer. Adams floating it to Hogan. He came on in Brisbane, Keith Hogan, and I thought injected a bit of fire into the Great Britain side that night.
Yes, he certainly did. I was a little bit surprised that he hasn't been considered for the Test side. Obviously, his main attribute is his attacking play, and he doesn't get through the amount of defensive work that this Great Britain pack requires. But he's certainly a lively player, possesses good pace, and certainly, as you said, injected plenty of fire into that Great Britain side up in Queensland.
Well, talking of injecting fire, that is something that everybody is expecting next Saturday when Great Britain and Australia meet in the third test. They say that there's a few scores to be settled. Hogan would be the type of player that you'd have in the side if that's going to be the case, I suppose, along with this fellow that's hooking at the moment, Watkinson, who came on last weekend, and he did seem to stir the Englishmen along a bit. This is McMahon. Although New South Wales lead 5-1, Keith, they still don't appear as though they've got it all together, do they?
No, they're certainly not. They're playing just as individuals at the moment, and there's nowhere near the pattern and coordination amongst the forwards that Frank Stanton would have been looking for.
Steve Mortimer giving a short ball to Jeff Gerard, and he's just onto the Great Britain end of the field. That's the Paddington end they're guarding in the first half. Ray Brown does well. Out to Trudgett, and Trudgett is met there by Topless. Topless, of course, is much quicker than John Holmes, I would think. Holmes has held down the 5/8 position for Great Britain, with the injuries, of course, to all in the in particular to Roger Millwood.
And the biggest problem with this New South Wales pack at the moment is that they don't have a player they're capable of setting a pattern of play and that the other players can work off. Most of them are runners. We've got a bit of authority, of course, there with Noon, but likes of Gerard, etc., they like to position themselves off the ball carrier. And there's no one in that New South Wales side that I can see anyhow that is capable of setting a pattern of play.
Well, the only forward really, Keith, that I've seen take it up and stand in a tackle and offload so far in the match has been Ray Brown. Adams now to Skerritt. But you're quite right, there's certainly no Artie Beetsons or Rod Reddy's out there. As it goes out to Redfern and across to Gratian. Gratian, of course, played with Cronulla a few seasons back. This is Hogan. Play just outside the quarter line. Topless to Nichols, floating the ball across, and this is Joyner. Back to Gratian, but it's deliberately forward, says referee Roberts. And he's better positioned than we are. It certainly may not have looked that way as you saw it on camera. It didn't appear that way from where we sit either, but then again we were not sitting in line with the pass. And so we take it that a fair penalty has been given to New South Wales and to Alan McMahon. And he torpedoes that ball across the showground touchline. Tap to be taken by Neville Glover. And Glover takes play 10 metres onto the Great Britain side of the halfway. This is Gerard turning the ball back to his teammate from Parramatta, Ron Hilditch, who gave it over the top to Trudgett. Trudgett gives it back to Ray Brown. He's lost it, picked up by Woods for Great Britain. And he's down and just outside his own quarter line. Hogan. "30 metres out on the Paddington end. Nichols. Kicking is Redfern, and not a bad kick by Redfern. He's gained many, many metres. If it finds touch, it's not going to, is it? No, it doesn't. McMahon running it up for New South Wales, drawing Redfern and giving it to Fay, who runs through Joyner. And he's through another. Skerritt that was, and beats another. Good run by Terry Fay.
He's a strong player, isn't he?
Steve Mortimer, Pearce, Neen, Dorahy, quick hands, and knocked on by Peter Mortimer. Given a bad pass.
He was given a bad pass, and Dorahy under a little bit of pressure, but the opportunity was there too with Glover on the outside and no Great Britain defenders in sight. Probably a let-off for Great Britain on that occasion, but what a powerful one from Terry Fay there to bring the ball back up from a very defensive situation after he was given it to by McMahon.
Although Terry Fay, by the same token, Keith, I thought highlighted again the weakness, if there is a weakness in John Joyner, his defence. Penalty to Great Britain. There's Roberts talking to Ray Brown. And Woods, more than likely, will take a kick for goal, I would think, although it seems as though he's kicking for touch, yes. Well within kicking distance for Woods. They've got the breeze with them in the first half too, Great Britain. And trailing 5-1. And taking it up is the hooker Watkinson. They're only about 11 metres out. Out to Skerritt. Dummies to Adams, who gives it to Topless. Swings it back on the blind side to Matthias. Matthias coming infield. Tackled by McMahon and Pearce. Redfern to Nichols and then to Hogan. Hogan is through one, but he's held about 8 metres out, right in front of the uprights. Back to Nichols and across the head of Woods, and it bounces favourably for Hughes. Does well to get a ball back to Redfern. He's taken by Peter Mortimer and by Starkey. They're 10 metres out now, the Englishman. Across through Nichols to Topless and then to Matthias. And he is away from Dorahy, but runs into Gerard. Ball to be played back to John Joyner. Now to Topless. There goes the bomb. It's not a bad one. It might be a fraction shallow, in fact. And Peter Mortimer did very well. Right up above the pack. and snatched it out of the air. This is Steve Neen. And Ray Brown now. The boy from Griffith. Starkey. Rewarded with a New South Wales jumper. Following upon some good performances for his club side. Steve Mortimer chipping through. And he might regather. He does. There's a chance here. Let's have a look at the speed of Gerard now. Gerard, he's looking for support on the inside. And it's gone to ground. Dived on by Great Britain.
Well, I was waiting for Mortimer to try something. That's the first time that he's come out of his shell. He's been content to take that first pass off the ruck and spear it to supports. But on that occasion, it was one of his characteristics, that little chip over the top. Certainly he was favoured by a good bounce. A little unfortunate, though, that a player with a bit more pace wasn't coming up the right-hand side of the field, rather than him having to switch it back to the left where the Great Britain defence was converging.
A little bit surprised that a fellow like Terry Fay, to whose line that ball was actually going, wasn't there in support of Mortimer.
No, he certainly didn't anticipate it when Mortimer put the little kick chip over the top. You would have been expecting Fay to come charging up that left-hand touch lane when Gerard got across that side of the field.
So, tackled on the far side of the field is the wing three-quarter.
But of course, Fay doesn't have the pace of Corowa, does he?
Played back to Nichols. This is Hogan giving it to Topless. And that's Adams. The scrum going down about 10 metres on the Great Britain side of the halfway.
No, I love my pussies and...
Same tunnel. Oh, that pass from Mortimer was a bad one. And eventually picked up by Pearce for New South Wales, but they can consider themselves very lucky to even have possession. From Peter Mortimer to Dorahy, who's over the halfway mark. And tackled by Woods. Played back to Glover. And Glover was met there and forced back by Trevor Skerritt.
It had to be Skerritt with a defensive tackle like that, didn't it?
Peter Mortimer, Steve Mortimer, Ron Hilditch. Skerritt in that tackle, number 13, Gratian 10, and this man getting up in 8 is Adams. Steve Mortimer switching the play to the blind side to Neen. He's looking on the inside for Pearce in 8 coming up, but Neen is taken to ground by Woods. Players just outside the quarter line. This is Pearce. Starkey's within, that's Starkey. And Starkey gets the play inside the 22 on the 6th. And the scrum is to go down.
Well, that's certainly been a bad feature of the New South Wales performance in this first half, their lack of switching at the point of their attack. They've been very predictable, taking the ball repeatedly to the one side of the field all the time, and on that occasion we did see Mortimer bring a little variation by switching play up to the blind side to Neen.
So Great Britain now, as the timepiece shows, 5 minutes of this match to go before half-time. Down 5-1. A little bit unfortunate, of course, with Woods going in to score what appeared a try, but taking the corner post with him. Topless now, 15 metres short of halfway. Played it back to Woods, and now Nichols, who draws the defence and floats one, but it's a bad ball for Fairburn. And Mortimer has also knocked on, and so the scrum is to go down 10 metres out from the Great Britain 22. And in the back play from this scrum, the New South Wales second row forward, Steve Neen, is receiving some attention.
I'll give full marks to Nichols, though, for the variation that he's bringing into the game. He's very, very involved, and he's trying to stir his teammates on. He obviously feels that a victory over New South Wales today will be wonderful for the team's morale with the third and final test coming up next Saturday, and Nichols is totally involved out there.
So this penalty to New South Wales for the incorrect feed. And Dorahy will take the kick for goal. Players about 15 metres in from the touchline on the showground side. Dorahy's kicked a goal from a more difficult position than this. His only goal of the match, of course. 3 minutes before half-time. It wouldn't seem likely that Stanton would make a replacement at this late stage of the first half. Dorahy's kick's a beauty. Oh, yeah, that's a good kick. And the Western Suburbs point-scoring machine, Joe Cool, has taken New South Wales to a 7-1 lead in the International, coming to you from the Sydney Cricket Ground on the O10 network. Woods now to restart. As the timepiece shows, we've had 37.5 minutes of time gone.
Yes, and Great Britain, of course, enjoying the advantage of this fairly stiff breeze. And in the early stages, they attempted to utilise it through the boot of Adams and on occasions Nichols. But certainly they've fallen into the pattern of just attempting to open up the game as much as possible. Well, a couple of minutes ago when Great Britain kicked off, we saw Steve Neame take the ball and attempt to carry the ball into touch. Well, on that occasion, he didn't have any worries at all because Woods promptly put it straight out over the touchline to give New South Wales the opportunity to get them back into an attacking situation. A great kick by McMahon.
One of the longest kickers in the game, McMahon. A great kick. 7 metres inside the 22. Glover, after taking a quick tap, getting those knees up high, and he's halted about 5 metres out from the line. This is Starkey. Play more towards centre field, and Hilditch now is tackled still about 5 metres out, right in front of the Bradman stand. 2 metres out. Steve Mortimer, the grub kick through. He's been held back. Surely a penalty try. I think he's given the try anyway to Jeff Gerard. Yes, Jeff Gerard has scored. I must plead guilty to having my eyes firmly on Steve Mortimer. Watch him as he grub kicks through and then is held back. Topless holds him back, so does Hogan, and there's no doubt that Steve Mortimer was going to score this try. But then his teammate Jeff Gerard came on the scene to put it down after Hogan let Mortimer go, realising that it was no use holding Mortimer back any longer, that Gerard was the man, in fact, that had to be contained. Watch it closely now on the head-on. Topless has Mortimer held, well and truly. Mortimer makes 2 lunges at it, and then Gerard dives on it in front of Hogan to take New South Wales to 10, and Great Britain 1, a very rare scoreline, which should be 12-1 as Dorahy has this one placed for the attempted conversion.
And you certainly read that perfectly, because there's no doubt that Roberts would have awarded a penalty try. But let's hark back now to that kick-off of John Woods, because it was from there when he failed to put the ball in the field of play, allowed McMahon to get good distance with that penalty, and now we're playing Great Britain 5 points further behind from an elementary mistake by Woods, and one that certainly should never have happened. New South Wales well in command. Another little bit of Mortimer genius I felt there.
So play coming to the halfway mark as the halftime siren sounds, and New South Wales leading Great Britain at the halftime break by 12 points to 1. And we'll take a look at the first half highlights for you in just a moment. Put on camera, and I certainly can't see Dave Watkinson. And in the New South Wales side, there's a change. Number 15 is on for them, of course, as we told you in the first half. Greg Cook was warming up, and there he is. He's on the field, replacing the Cronulla second rower, Steve Neame.
And that's certainly a meteoric rise, isn't it? Because he's only played a handful of first-grade games, and but a very, very promising player.
So Canterbury have got a 3-man representation out there now, as Terry Fay brings it out to his own quarter line. New South Wales 12, Great Britain 1, as we set out for this second half. New South Wales running with the breeze in the second half. The breeze northerly at around 20 kilometres. And again, Terry Fay is tackled about 5 metres outside the quarter line. Gerard goes for a run himself on the blind side. He popped a pass on the inside to Hilditch. Hilditch gets a pass on the inside to the replacement. Cook, is it? Tackled just outside the 22 on Great Britain's end of the field. Steve Mortimer now swinging it to Brown and then to Cook, and Cook loses the ball only about 5 metres out, and Fairbairn is tackled just in the field of play. With it is Joyner, and a penalty to Great Britain. New South Wales inside the 5. Well, that was a nice ball that Gerard gave Hilditch in the first instance, and then it looked as though Greg Cook was going to score a try in the first 60 seconds of his international debut.
Yes, he handled it twice, didn't he? But on the few occasions that we've seen the New South Wales players look for any combination whatsoever, it's been Gerard that has set a pattern of play, picking up the runner. And was, as you said, it was a clever pass by Gerard that almost brought about a try for New South Wales. We've got Mortimer limping very heavily at the moment.
So it's New South Wales 10 metres out from the quarter. And Pearce, it is, tackled more towards centre field on the 22 on the Great Britain, or in this half, Randwick end of the field. Steve Mortimer back into position now. That's him with the ball, getting it to McMahon. And he's taken to ground and into touch by a three-man Great Britain tackle. Matthias Skerritt was in there. Need I say any more? And Redfern. Skerritt, of course, is recognised by just about everybody as being the best defender in this Great Britain touring party. From Trudgett, a long pass out to Peter Mortimer, then to John Dorahy, dropped by Alan McMahon, and there was certainly a chance coming up there for Terry Fay. So the scrum is to go down just outside the quarter line on the Great Britain end of the field.
It's bad luck McMahon wasn't able to pick up that pass, because it was a good crisscross move, then a one obviously that they've rehearsed during training this week, and it was a good pass from Dory to McMahon.
Great Britain winning the scrum, and it's gone from Adams across through Topless, and this man with the ball is John Joyner. Scored a try in the corresponding minute of the second half in the test last Saturday. Topless to Skerritt. And around the legs there for New South Wales was Terry Fay, and helping in the tackle Starkey and Gerard. Nichols switching the point of the attack to Ward, who runs into the forwards, and Gerard is there to make the tackle with Ray Brown. Nichols, Redfern, this is Woods, held in the tackle by Dorahy, and it's being played back to Redfern. Blindside to Ward. Calls Matthias on the inside. Oh, and picked up and dropped very heavily by Glover and Starkey. And kicking is Adams. That ball looks to me as though it's going to go down into the in-goal area, and Glover, yes, obliged to pick it up. Here he comes now. Glover. Taken by Matthias. On the New South Wales quarter line. Mortimer. Trudgett. Dorahy. Dorahy killed there eventually, a couple of metres inside his quarter line. 12-1 the scoreline, no change since half-time, and we've had 5 minutes of play almost in the second half. Gerard not making the breaks I thought that we would see from Gerard today. McMahon getting it outside his quarter area and sending it down to the corresponding end of the Great Britain half, and this is Fairbairn. Greg Pearce around the legs. Up the top was John Dorahy, and Fairbairn is injured for Great Britain. This is Matthias. About 11 metres short of the halfway. Ball played back to Redfern, and then Nichols. Now Ward in 15. Slid the pass nicely to Skerritt, who's up to the halfway mark. Gratian was coming, but too late. And a penalty going to Great Britain for stealing the ball. And they take a quick tap, and referee Roberts is going to put a scrum down now.
Yes, well, obviously, Topless incurred the displeasure of the referee on that occasion, obviously chatted as well for answering back, but I thought it was bad play by Great Britain not to elect to take the penalty kick for touch, get as much yardage as they could in that situation. It wasn't as if they had the New South Wales defence at 6s and 7s. The New South Wales players were formed up in a very good and safe defensive line.
So a penalty to Great Britain. Let's see how many scrum penalties that is against New South Wales. It would be worrying Frank Stanton, I would think. The scrum penalty situation is 6-3. 6-3 the scrum penalty situation. as the kick for touch finds it midway between the 22 and the halfway. 4 of those scrum penalties against Ray Brown, 2 of them against Steve Mortimer, incidentally. That's the breakdown of the half dozen. David Wood. This is Skerritt. Ball being played back to Redfern. Wood. Nichols. A nice ball to Matthias. Nichols. Redfern. Picked up by Hogan. Pardon me. We're about 7 or 8 metres out from the 22, and Hogan plays it back to Topless. This is Mick Adams. Out to Redfern. Woods now. And Metten put down by Gerard and Hilditch. This is Redfern. Matthias. Held by Glover.
I don't know, there's plenty of ball play with the Great Britain side. They're moving the ball, they're creating opportunities, but there's just no drive and no purpose in their running. They're lacklustre, they're going half-pace to my mind. There's no pressure being applied to this New South Wales defence.
I don't think they're going half-pace, Keith. I think
there's just no pace there.
I think that is the thing that is lacking most with them, and that is the word, pace.
But even if they haven't got the pace, you think they've got the drive and the determination, but they're not even putting any effort into their running. That's what I'm talking about.
Anyway, this penalty goes to Great Britain, and Woods has this chance to take a kick for penalty, although it's possible they won't. In fact, they're not. Fairburn has been given the ball, and he's kicking for touch. They're going for the 5-pointer. Eric Hughes is off the field for Great Britain. He's on the reserve bench, and so Steve Evans is out there for Great Britain. Now Gratian to play it. David Ward. Redfern's pass to Hogan has been put down, and Topless following it through, but referee Roberts ruling that it went forward, and this scrum is to go down about 15 metres out from the New South Wales line as a sarcastic cheer goes up from the Bradman and Noble stands. Well, Eric Hughes apparently is suffering a knee injury, which is a shame for Great Britain, because Hughes is one of their speediest players. And I know that here in Sydney tonight, the National Coursing Association were hoping to have a match race between Hughes and Larry Corowa, a $1,500 match race sponsored by the Avis people. So that must now be in jeopardy, I would feel. And this is Fairburn. Tackler is Greg Pearce with Neville Glover. And this is Matthias. 12-1, still the scoreline. We're 10 minutes into the second half. And Roberts will penalise these New South Walesmen if they don't get off the player shortly. It's gone out through Topless to Hogan, but no, he didn't give the ball to Hogan. At the last moment, Topless apparently electing to take it to ground. Adams now. Ball being played back to John Joyner. Ward. Redfern. Redfern is away from Ray Brown. He's over the halfway. Turns it on the inside to Matthias, and he's tackled by Alan McMahon. 10 metres out from the 22 line. Last tackle as George Nichol takes it towards the centre of the field before giving it back to Jeff Gratian. Then across to Skerritt. And he gets a pass away, picked up by Ward and intercepted by Steve Mortimer for New South Wales. He's over the halfway and around Fairburn. The defence converging. Centre kick. Oh, bad luck because his brother Peter was coming through. The ball, in fact, bounced back over Peter Mortimer's head. It would have been a real brotherly try. Ward now tackled for the visitors. Skerritt. Held by Gerard down low. Cook over the top with Starkey. Nichols. Wood. And it bounced up and stopped. It seemed almost certain to find touch. But McMahon now. Through one, through two. And held by Topless. played back to Brown. Trudgett looks for his St George teammate, but it's deliberately forward. Referee Roberts ruling intentionally forward, and a penalty to Great Britain.
A yard too far up, otherwise it would have been some good piece of football by Trudgett.
So the tap is to be taken about 12 metres out from the 22. Redfern, Gratian, and he's lost it in the tackle. I think it's been regained. Referee Roberts ruling a dual knock-on, and so the scrum is to go down. Midway between the halfway and the 22 on the the New South Wales end of the field. They're, of course, guarding the Paddington end in the second half. Topless arrived in Australia last Sunday night. Redfern giving it to Woods, calling Matthias on the inside. But Woods is held on the 22, and the New South Wales player is injured. And Jeff Gerard it is. Skerritt now taking it up the centre.
He's a worker, Skerritt, isn't he?
Yes, there's no beg pardons with Skerritt. This is Hogan. And picked up by New South Wales. And Cook it is. Just a couple of metres inside the 22. Starkey. Gerard. Steve Mortimer. And that kick is stopping fairly quickly. Fairburn has it now. And put the ground about 2 metres on his side of the halfway. So the scrums are 8 apiece. The penalties are 12-5 to Great Britain. 5-0 in this half. The penalties favour the visiting side. 8-3 scrum penalties to Great Britain. New South Wales have dropped the ball 11 times. Great Britain 8. And New South Wales have held the ball for 6 tackles once. Great Britain as yet haven't held the ball for 6 tackles. This is Woods. Inside Cook. Around Peter Mortimer, picked up by Steve Mortimer on the New South Wales 22. This is Ward. Gets through a lot of work, the Great Britain hooker. Skerritt. And Great Britain very close to the line now. This is where they are very dangerous normally. Ward, a floating pass out to Adams, and then a long ball taken on the bounce by Joyner. Joyner is held in the tackle by Dorahy and Trudgett, and they're back on the 22 now. As the ball is kicked by Adams up in the air, and it's virtually gone straight up and down, and it's New South Wales with it, and that's Terry Fay tapping it forward and going ahead. Taking play outside the quarter line. Cook. Steve Mortimer. Starkey turning it inside to Trudgett. It's quite apparent if you watch this game closely how teammate looks for teammate. A couple of times in this game I've noticed how Trudgett and Starkey know each other's play very well, and the same applies to Gerard and Hilditch. And of course the Mortimer brothers from Canterbury. And the penalty to Great Britain. Well, they've already shown their hand once in kicking for touch from a goal kicking position. They'll be doing that again with Fairburn. Still 24 minutes of time remaining. But when they opted not to take that kick for goal earlier, there was or there were over 30 minutes of time remaining. This is Gratian now. Held on the 22 and held there by Cook up the top. And Gerard down below with Hilditch. Across to Nichols and then giving a ball to Hogan. Hogan juggling it, almost leaving it behind. But he did well to eventually rake it in. Great Britain on the attack. 10 metres out. Topless turning it to David Ward. And Ward is tackled. Only about 8 metres away from the New South Wales line. Running with the ball is Redfern. And he gets the pass away to John Woods, and Woods has scored. Woods has scored for Great Britain under the uprights to give himself the simplest of conversion attempts. And the scoreline 12-4 now as the try comes up on replay. Redfern did well to get that ball away. He seemed well contained by the New South Wales tacklers, Keith Barnes.
Yes, he did. Well, he's a working type of halfback, Redfern, isn't he? He hasn't got a great deal of pace, but he's foraging all the time, and on that occasion his strength stood him to good stead when he was able to get the pass away under 2 or 3 New South Wales defenders. But that's going to bring a little bit of life back into the game now, 12 points to 6. But the Great Britain side, we've been critical of their lack of pace and lack of drive from the beginning of the tour, really, and they certainly haven't changed my line of thinking out here this afternoon. They're giving the ball plenty of air. They're bringing plenty of variation into their play, but for most of the time they're playing behind the New South Wales line.
So the scoreline 12-6 in favour of New South Wales. We're 22 minutes out. Here's Dorahy. Sends it down to the wing occupied by Evans. 21 years of age, Evans. We haven't seen a lot of him on television, but Keith and I have had the pleasure of seeing those appearances, and he gives the impression that he's one of the speedier Great Britain players.
Yes, he certainly gives the impression that given any opportunities at all, he's able to probe or capitalise on any weakness in the opposing defence, but each time he's never really fulfilled the promise that he shows.
And so Woods it is to dummy half, giving it to Ward and out through Redfern to Nichols and then on to Topless, who nearly lost it before being put to ground by Tony Trudgett. Kicking is Nichols, looking for that touchline. It looks a bit full to me, it is, and the scrum will go down just back on the Great Britain side of halfway.
When Jutta Hansen entertains, you can eat some of the best Danish food anywhere, including Denmark.
We like chicken for...
But New South Wales players have to affect. Certainly they haven't been able to hold the ball for the full 6 tackles each time, but it just gives you the idea now and the impression of how much tackling this New South Wales side have been forced to do in this, 20 minutes of the second half.
Played by Topless. And this is Skerritt, taken by Greg Pearce. Topless away to Hogan. Hogan's about 6 metres now on the New South Wales side of the halfway. This man is Redfern. He's back on his own side of the halfway now. So the blind side has worked, and Adams kicks to Glover's wing, and it's almost beaten Glover. He didn't seem over-perturbed, though, Glover. And took all the time in the world about it, and now plays it on his own quarter line. As playing the ball, Alan McMahon. Out to Steve Mortimer, now to Gerard. Gerard going up the centre, met there by Skerritt and Nichols. And with it is Brown, turning it on the inside to Hilditch, getting a one-handed pass to Steve Mortimer. Out to Starkey. Starkey stepping around one, sliding a one-hander back to Steve Mortimer. And he runs into Gratian and is tackled midway between the quarter and the halfway on the New South Wales end of the field. Gerard. And he floats the ball out, and Glover can't take it, but he does recover possession for his side, so a scrum will go down about 12 metres on the New South Wales side of the halfway. The crowd figures are going up. into the Sydney Cricket Ground scoreboard as the timepiece shows 22 minutes gone. 12-6 the scoreline in favour of New South Wales. The scrum won by New South Wales. As it goes out to McMahon and put down and picked up by Great Britain's lock forward Nick Adams. Back to John Woods, and Woods is tackled, not held. Now he is just outside the quarter line. Crowd is 8,902 here at the Cricket Ground today. Redfern floating a ball out to Nichols, and a quick ball to Ward. He has Matthias coming up on the outside, going to the inside now. But Matthias is picked up in defence by Bruce Starkey. So it's out to Nichols again, who floats it across the back to Hogan, who gives the impression, Hogan, that given some room to work in, he could be a very dangerous forward. This is Redfern. Only a youngster too, Hogan.
He's a player that certainly has to be watched, and he's been hitting the line. He's been one of the few players that has been hitting the line out here this afternoon. But that was a bad mistake by Doherty there, where McMahon positioned him to...
So Adams gets the pass away to Joyner, and Joyner looking to unload, but he's decided to take it to ground. That's the end of 6, and the scrum has to go down about 9 metres out from the New South Wales line.
I had a laugh at the way Topless was grabbed by the collar there and swung right off his feet. But just referring back to that incident where Doherty dropped the pass, and the Great Britain lock forward Adams picked the ball up, and there was an opportunity there for them, but Woods was just stopped in that last ditch tackle.
Redfern to Adams, and then away to Topless, and on it goes to Fairbairn. Fairbairn has got the ball down. That's a try to Great Britain, their second. And the scoreline to 12-9 in favour of New South Wales. It happened this way. As you see it on the replay, Redfern held the pass up beautifully to Adams, who did the same for Topless before going to Fairbairn. And Fairbairn is tackled. He's short of the line there, but in fact is pulled across the line by the weight of the Glover tackle. Here it is on the head-on, Keith Barnes.
Yes, well, a good play by each of the players involved there. Topless was able to get his pass away after Adams had detached himself on the scrum to give them the overlap. They had the New South Wales defence, of course, at 6s and 7s, unsure of which man to take. And as soon as Topless committed the New South Wales defender, he was able to give a good pass to Fairbairn. But this has brought the game alive now, of course. 12 points to 11. Greg P, as the New South Wales captain, certainly appreciates the situation. There's very few players out there that have done their representative chances any good, but Pearce was talking to his players behind the line.
And John Woods, of course, converting the try scored by Fairbairn. And 12-11 the scoreline. Doherty sends it down to Fairbairn. And Evans tackled about 12 metres out from the 22. Hogan, 23 years of age. He was sold by the Barrow Club to Hull Kingston Rovers for a Rugby League world record fee of $54,000. Making this run is John Joyner. He's down towards the 22. And it's raked in by Peter Mortimer.
Brilliantly raked in too, didn't he? He took it very well.
Hilditch now. Ray Brown playing it. Steve Mortimer running away and splitting them, serving it up to Gerard. Now Gerard's away into the clear. Oh yes, shades of Gerard streaking away in that second test match, really. Long gallop for Gerard to score for the home side, to lead 15 points to 11. But Steve Mortimer again showed his absolute genius as he worked his own magic through the Great Britain defence. See it again now. There's this youngster from Canterbury, formerly from Wagga, and one of 3 brothers with the Canterbury club. Just splits them and then serves it to this man, who can really let go when he sees an open space.
Yeah. Well, let's give Mortimer all the credit for this. He was a little bit quiet for the first 30 minutes or so, but no, he's burst into his own, playing his natural game. And let's give Gerard the opportunity, too, of a bit of praise, because he's the player that loves to run off someone. And there's not too many players out there in the New South Wales pack that can create openings for this big, strong running second rower from Parramatta. But on that occasion, he summed up the situation very quickly, saw that Mortimer had the opportunity of making a good break, charged onto a perfectly timed pass, and then he showed his pace to get away from the Great Britain defence. And of course this from a situation where New South Wales looked as if they could be struggling, they've come back very strongly with a try, a goal by Doherty, and now they've edged away again to a 17 points to 11 lead.
We're reminiscent of last week's test match where we had Australia leading comfortably at half-time before the scoreline was rather abruptly brought back to some form of respectability by Great Britain, before we again saw Australia kick away, as they have here today, New South Wales, to lead more comfortably. 17-11 the scoreline in favour of New South Wales. And this is Cook. Ray Brown. That tackle looked a little bit high from David Topless, but referee Roberts indicates it was across the shoulders. It's out to Steve Mortimer onto Terry Fay, and he loses his footing. And Nichols secures the tackle. Greg Cook now giving it around to Greg Pearce, and Pearce is tackled midway between the 22 and the halfway on Great Britain's end of the field as Terry Fay takes it up and is tackled by Nichols. That's the end of the tackle count, and the scrum is to go down. I saw Steve Morris limbering up just a few seconds back, but the same Steve Morris was returned to the bench and is sitting there with Alf Richards.
Well, I think Steve Mortimer saw him limbering up too. That might have been what sparked him into action. Morris, of course, has had a wonderful season with St George, hasn't he? Coming into his own in recent weeks, playing great football.
Now, Greg Pearce is tackled about 15 metres out from the Lions try line, from Steve Mortimer to Trudgett, then to Doherty, and then around to Peter Mortimer. There's that movement on again that failed last time as McMahon gives it to Hilditch, and Hilditch is eventually put down by Mick Adams. Hilditch to play it, back to Ray Brown. Now Steve Mortimer. Greg Cook now standing and looking for a ball runner, but he's put down 12 metres out as Ray Brown goes into dummy half. Fed back to Doherty, who stabs it over the top and sending Fay through, but he's over the dead ball line. Out to the quarter line for the restart. By Cook. Greg Pearce over the top. And this man is Mick Adams. And the shadows well and truly across the cricket ground by now. Just a small patch of sunlight in the bottom of your screen, making its way between the ladies' stand and the members' stand, as it's played back to David Ward just outside his quarter line, through Redfern to Topless, and now Hogan, who loves to stand out very wide. Ward, a flick pass back to Joyner, and he's held 15 metres out from his quarter line. Redfern stabbing for the touchline. It is going to find a 2. Nice little kick by Redfern, finding it 10 metres on the New South Wales side of the halfway mark. 17-11 the scoreline. And I see Steve Morris now starting to take the tracksuit off. So coach Frank Stanton obviously is going to give him a gallop. The scrum collapses as Morris goes onto the field of play. Touch judge in. The St George fans here in this crowd of nearly 9,000 letting their feelings be known as Morris goes on. Mortimer is off and McMahon tries to step. 8 minutes to go in the match. McMahon plays it. Steve Morris is in the half-back role now. Terry Fay loses it, and it's Great Britain's ball to be played by Mick Adams from Topless away to Redfern, and then on to Ward, on to Hogan. And he gets his pass to George Nichols, but Nichols is held on the halfway mark. Played back to Ward, coming across the field. And getting the pass away there was the Great Britain 5/8, but Matthias is held, looking for support. It certainly wasn't forthcoming as he plays it to Wood. And it goes across through Topless, out to Steve Evans. And referee Robert says the restart of 6 tackles as it came into contact with the New South Welshman. Nichols floating one to Topless, then to Ward. Ward's got the arms free, but Dorahy is trying to prevent him from passing. Here's a chance by Glover, but he can't get the kick in field. (17-11). New South Wales leading with 7 minutes of time remaining.
It certainly hasn't been a day for the wingers, has it? We haven't seen too much of the backline play with the ball flowing across, giving the opportunity to the wingers, apart from that one time when McMahon did chime in to send Fay over for the opening try of the game. Glover did have an opportunity there if he'd been able to get his foot to the ball.
So this flood of penalties continue. Taking the overall count up to 15-5 in favour of Great Britain. And that's the 6th penalty against Ray Brown for feet across. The tap taken by Ward. Nichols popping it up to Gratian, who gives it back to Ward, who gives it back to Skerritt, then on to Redfern. Redfern, who made that try for John Woods, plays it now, 15 metres out from the quarter line. This is Skerritt. Ward getting a one-hander away to Redfern and then back to Woods. And he's put down by the New South Wales defence of Pearce and Trudgett. Nichols ducking under a tackle that was a shade high. From Woods back to Topless. Topless away from a tackle, making a good run, Topless, but ending at the hands of Steve Morris. Out to Mick Adams. And this is John Woods now. Still just outside the 22. Ball being played back to Matthias it was, but it's gone quickly across several sets of hands to Hogan. Hogan gets the pass out to Evans. Evans looks for support and gives it straight to John Dorahy for New South Wales. And Dorahy is tackled midway between the quarter line and the halfway. And picked up by Dorahy, and the penalty goes to Great Britain.
They could have quite easily gone the other way, I thought. Dorahy was a victim of circumstances there. I thought Fairbairn was going to get penalised when he knocked the ball out of the New South Wales player's hands, but it was Dorahy who was penalised for being offside.
So the tap kick to be taken by David Ward, given to Nichols, and play is in centre field on the New South Wales quarter line. This is Hogan. Penalties in the second half. 9-0 to Great Britain. The overall penalty count 16-5 to them. This is Nichols floating a ball out very well to Evans, and Evans has split them. Steve Evans scoring for his side. Well, here it is on the replay. Watch this immaculate ball that Nichols throws from here. High over the head of the defence, straight to Evans, who stepped beautifully off his right foot. Sure, he had the defence coming across, but, I don't like that very much, the one-handed put down, but that doesn't matter. The score is there on the board, I suppose. Converted by John Woods. Here it is on the head-on. This will show that pass of Nichols much better. Good ball from Nichols to Evans, then he stepped and beat 3. Wrong foot of them. Evans And we've seen him now a couple of times. The Toots KB man of the match has just been announced, and it brought a roar from the crowd. Steve Mortimer, replaced about 5 minutes ago by Steve Morris, and Steve Mortimer has been named as the Toots KB man of the match. He wins the $300 prize, cash prize. We're looking, of course, for our Joyce Main discounts and Rank Arena microwave oven winner in our man of the match. And this is David Ward now, down to the halfway line, out and across to Nichols, and tackled is Mick Adams. Scrums are 11-10 to New South Wales. Penalties 16-5 to Great Britain. 9-3 the penalties in the scrums have gone to Great Britain. And 16-10 the drop balls. New South Wales 16, Great Britain 10. This is Hogan on the inside, topless, across to Nichols, and then to Adams, pulled out of the air there by Joyner after the ball appeared to go well behind him. Across to George Nichols again. This is Steve Evans. No room to work in out there. Redfern through Gratian to Ward, now through Adams to Hogan and on to Matthias. Back to Woods. And Woods gets the pass away to Topless. It goes across to Skerritt. On to Evans. Evans looking, 3-second touchdown. McMahon, too late. I'd say a try. Yes. Steve Evans has scored for Great Britain. A lot of people felt that he took that corner flag, but I doubt very much that he did. Before he got the ball down, that is. This replay won't show it as well as the head-on, but you watch the black and white marker. McMahon makes the tackle now, and I don't think there's any doubt.
Well, it certainly looked a fair try, didn't it? What a transformation has come over this game now, with 2 Great Britain tries in the last couple of minutes. But there was some great football leading up to this try, wasn't it? The way they were able to keep the ball alive before they finally caught the New South Wales defence out of position. Certainly a little step there by Woods. Quick pass by Topless across the line gave Evans the opportunity of that extra yardage, which he certainly appreciated. He got away from that, dive by Hilditch. A good tackle by McMahon, but oh, gee, it was a hairline decision, wasn't it? McMahon certainly took the corner flag, and Evans was able to get the ball down.
The kick by John Woods is unsuccessful, but Great Britain lead and win. Great Britain, 19, have defeated New South Wales, 17, inflicting the first defeat on a New South Wales side against a touring Great Britain side since Eric Ashton led the Great Britain side back in '62, and there he is, the man, the coach, who captained the last winning Great Britain side in 1962 to victory over New South Wales in that year. Attendance 8,902, and we'll have our man of the match announcement in just a few moments' time. And so Great Britain 19 defeating New South Wales 17, coming from 12-1 down at half-time with quite a sensational finish with 2 nice tries scored by Steve Evans. One in particular made possible by our man of the match, I feel sure, in George Nichols, the captain of Great Britain. Congratulations, George. You've won the microwave oven, which I am sure you'll be a very proud man to accept.
Yes, very much so. Thank you very much for...
Getting back to the game itself, George, were you a happy captain?
Yeah, I was very happy at the finish. I felt all along throughout the game that we were the better side, and I think that we made, a few mistakes in the first half, and we paid the penalty for making these mistakes. They cashed in on them and came back and scored 2 tries,
George, the second half penalty count went 9-0 to you. So quite obviously you've had a fair share of possession in that second half, to say the least.
Well, it makes a change for us to win a penalty count, I think, but I didn't know the result of the penalty count, but I'm just glad it's happened.
George, looking ahead to next Saturday, do you think that now, even though the tour is starting to reach its twilight, really, as far as Australia is concerned, that you can beat Australia next Saturday?
I think so, yes. I think we've had the beating them. We've suffered a lot of injuries throughout the tour. The team hasn't been playing at its best, we know this. But I think the spirit showed good today, We came back from behind, especially when we came to one point behind and then they pulled away again, but the spirit was good and the lads fought back well, and I think we've got a good spirit back in the side again.
George, I was particularly impressed with Steve Evans scoring a couple of tries in the second half. He is a player that a lot of Australians are wondering why he isn't in the Test match. It's not a question you can answer. I didn't really ask it as a question. But Hogan, the second rower, also seems to inject himself into the play.
Yeah, it's quite true. Steve is a good player and Phil Hogan, both good players. That, as you know, Phil was picked for the last side. He would have been, and he pulled out with injury.
Rooms 12 and like even this house just a couple of years